joining us today. As a matter of fact, we had done an interview earlier this week, but the events in the United Kingdom, the death of Queen Elizabeth, warranted a special conversation. So I've asked Tom to rejoin me today. And with that, Tom, good afternoon to you. You are there in London. What is it like? And of course, when you and I talked, we were expecting this potential, but now that it's actually occurred, what is the circumstance? What's it like there in London? You're there in the city.
Yes, well, it is funereal. Everyone is quite sad. I mean, it's been 70 years. People just can't imagine life without Queen Elizabeth II. Very difficult for me to imagine it. She's been around for all but 3 of my years. Just sort of constant rock that was always there. You could always depend on her.
The other aspect of this, and of course, we've talked about this for years, the controversy and the conflicts within the royal family and all the challenges they faced. And at times, I know that even her subjects, that is, Queen Elizabeth's subjects, were a little critical of her, particularly in the case of the death of Princess Diana. What is the feeling there? Was that just a temporary situation? And what's the feeling about the whole concept of monarchy now in the United Kingdom?
Well, I think at the moment there's a strong, feeling in favor of it. That could change as circumstances change, of course. It dropped to a low when Diana died, and it's been gradually picking up since then. I think if you ask most people in the street now, they would be all in favor of it. Even if they weren't in favor of the monarchy as an institution, they were very much in favor of the example which the Queen set. And it was as much her person as it was the institution.
And I would also say it's her experience. She literally cut her teeth in World War II. And then shortly thereafter, all the other world events that have taken place. And it was interesting. Our producer, Ross, made comment, and he looked at some of the background going into various videos and pictures of the Queen, the number of presidents that she had met. So I mean, it's astounding. It's astounding. She was, if you will, a historical bridge.
She had 15 prime ministers, and the first one, Winston Churchill, was a hero of the Boer War at the turn of the 20th century.
Right.
And the last one, Liz Truss, was only 7 years old when they had the Falklands War. And so she spanned, really, the experience of her prime minister, it spanned, well over a century. From basically the height of the British Empire to the total end of the British Empire and the withdrawal from Europe.
We'll go into some of the details of her funeral and what to expect. I know you mentioned as we were about to go on the interview that you had the agenda, but let's talk here for a moment about the succession process. And Prince Charles now, I would assume he automatically takes on the title of King Charles. What will be his title? Will he remain? He won't be Charles, will he? Or what?
Yes, he will. He will be King Charles III.
Does he automatically take on that title, or is there some action?
Yes, he is now King Charles III. He automatically takes it on at the time of the death of the monarch, or the new monarch takes on the title at the time of death automatically.
Okay.
However, there will be tomorrow, as we speak right now, by the way, literally as we speak, Prince Charles is on television addressing the nation.
The relationship with Prince Charles and the Queen, the Princess Consort. I'm not sure. What is the proper title for Camilla?
The Queen's Consort. Camilla, the Queen's Consort.
Queen's Consort. Okay. What is that relation?
King's Consort. What am I saying?
Okay.
Camilla, the King's Consort.
All right. And what is the relationship there with the subjects and the new the new monarch?
Well, I mean, he formally is king.
Right.
Tomorrow there will be an accession meeting at which he will be formally announced as king, and there'll be a meeting of the Privy Council, all of the all of the bishops, and all of the senior judges. And that meeting will be at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and they will formally proclaim him as the king. And that would be at St. James's Palace.
How is he received by his subjects?
Well, hopefully very well. It's difficult to say. I mean, each person will receive him differently. There'll be people who are Republicans and don't want a monarch. I think that generally he will be well received. He has been Prince of Wales and basically the number 2 for an awful long time. So he has a lot of experience. He, of course, has his own baggage, a lot of it related to Diana. A lot of people felt that he did not handle her very well, or was unfaithful and should be punished for it. Some people have even suggested that he shouldn't be king at all, that in fact the succession should skip a generation and that his son William should become king. But that is not going to happen.
He has been, I think, very patient. You know, related to the foibles of the royal family, no one in the long history of the monarchy has been actually exceptional in their lifestyle, with probably the exception, well, King George, that is Queen Elizabeth's father, and Queen Elizabeth herself. I think the two of them have...
Oh, and the first Queen Elizabeth.
Excuse me?
And Queen Victoria.
And all right, Queen Victoria, yes, I'll acknowledge that. Obviously, there's a major transition. What is the political fallout of this in relationship to Parliament?
There shouldn't be any political fallout at all. I mean, the monarchy's role is totally apolitical.
Okay.
Today, King Charles, as he has to be called from now on, it's going to be difficult to remember,
right,
will have his first meeting, official meeting with the Prime Minister. And in fact, he's already had that meeting. They had that meeting this morning. They meet once a week. He meets once a week with the Prime Minister. That meeting is confidential.
Right.
And it's meant to be totally private, and the Prime Minister can ask whatever they want, and the King is allowed to provide advice. But the Prime Minister does not have to act upon that advice.
As you said, the position is apolitical. Let's talk here for a few moments about the agenda on the funeral arrangements. What's going to take place over, and how long will it last?
To start with, it has a code name, a military code name. It's called Operation London Bridge, after London Bridge is falling down.
Mm-hmm.
It is a bit inconvenient for the Queen to die in Scotland, because most of the plans were made for her to die, started with her dying somewhere in London, either at Windsor Castle or at Buckingham Palace.
Mm-hmm.
But she has died in Scotland at her summer estate at Balmoral. And to start with, her coffin will be taken to Edinburgh. And I think the coffin will be taken to Edinburgh tomorrow. And it will be initially placed in state and carried from Holyrood Palace, which is the Queen's official residence in Scotland, to St. Giles Cathedral, where it will lie in state with the Scottish throne. And then that is on Monday. And then on Tuesday, it will be taken first to Buckingham Palace. And then on Wednesday, it will be taken to Westminster Abbey, where it will lie in state. And it will lie in state until the funeral on Monday. On Friday, the various heads of state, the dignitaries who are attending the funeral, will start coming into London. Among them, I'm told, will be President Biden, who's coming to the funeral. This is unusual. The president does not normally attend funerals. He normally sends either the vice president or the secretary of state.
Right.
And then on Monday, that is not this Monday, but Monday week, the funeral will be held. All this time, while the coffin is lying in state, or the Queen is lying in state, there will be what's called a Prince's Vigil, which is that her children will stand vigil around the coffin.
You know, Tom, we were talking about this yesterday when we first were having our discussion, that it was potential event, and you mentioned a moment ago how, if you will, inconvenient it was that it happened in Scotland. However, I was reading some stories. Apparently, the Queen really enjoyed Scotland. To her, it was a very special place, and it was an opportunity for her to get away from, if you will, the public eye.
Yes, no, that's absolutely true. Her estate in Scotland was 50,000 acres, and so she could just roam free without having to worry about being chased by paparazzi and so forth. And apparently she had quite good links with the local community. She went to a local church. She could also often be seen shopping in the local shops, just going in, and they just treated her like anyone else. It was that sort of arrangement. They wanted to think that they made her feel at home.
In some regards, a very peaceful experience for her and her last days. You mentioned a moment ago the local church. Well, let's talk about this. In her capacity, she was the head of the Anglican Church, was she not?
She was the head of the Anglican Church, which includes, in the Anglican Communion, includes the Episcopal Church in America.
Right.
And for instance, when they opened the National Cathedral in Washington, that she was there. She opened it. And I recently received, you and I both went to an Episcopal school, and I recently received a very nice email from the headmaster of that school expressing his condolence because of her role as the head of the Anglican Communion.
Her capacity as a sort of a bridge for so many communities, of course, the church and the secular community. She was a bridge for a lot of foreign nations as well. She sort of kept the lines of communications open. She was a sort of a salve, if you will, for rough surfaces.
She was head of the Commonwealth, which is 57 countries.
Uh-huh.
That is roughly a quarter of the number, more than a quarter, more than 25% of the membership of the UN. And she was in constant contact with the heads of government with all those countries. Wow. And the thing is, the thing about her role is she never interfered. She just listened. And if they asked for advice, she was able to give it based on her many, many, many years of talking to people. And she just knew politics in and out. She wasn't an active participant, but she was an active consultant, if you like.
She just held a special position in the world, one that I fear won't be easily replicated. And we talked about this at the opening of the program.
Well, there is no one else in the world who performs that role, who is there for that long and has that many connections.
I know. I mean, just the fact that here we are talking to somebody who received Sir Winston Churchill on a regular basis when he was prime minister, and she the queen, and she knew him. She knew the prime minister through her father in the midst of the war, and all that she's been through. It's really quite stunning.
The thing that really strikes people is her selfless devotion to duty. That she never ever faltered on that. She was working up until 2 days before she died.
Right. But she greeted
a 96-year-old woman at work,
right,
when she was receiving the outgoing prime minister and the incoming prime minister.
Yes, that is impressive. All right, let's go back to the funeral arrangements. We're talking about a week from this Monday will be the funeral. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's a long trip. All right. What will happen in London will, because we've been talking about this at great length about the politics, I guess, really does London pretty much just sort of calm down the...
I have no idea because, we've not had any experience of a monarch dying for 70 years or for more than 70 years.
Yes, that's true.
And so this is going to be, if you like, virgin territory almost for most people who are alive.
Well, of course, with her husband, what happened there in London when? But
it wasn't the same.
Prince
Philip got a very nice funeral. He did not get a state funeral. This is the only state funeral since Winston Churchill.
Wow, that is, it's just a stunning statement.
So this is As I said, virgin territory. I have no idea, how London is going to take it. At the moment, they're all gathering outside Buckingham Palace. Everyone's very sad. There's piles of flowers. How many people will be lining the road? I have no idea whether we're going to be going to work. Certainly, all the football matches and things for this weekend have been canceled. Whether or not there's going to be a holiday, we don't know. As I said, we just have no experience of this.
Okay. What is it like with your friends? Now, it's only 24 hours, and you may not have had a lot of contact and conversations, but what are you hearing just on the streets and from your friends? What's the mood?
Well, it's funereal, uncertainty. Although she was not, the political figure like a president or anything like that, she was a figure of constancy. She was that one thing that was always present in your life, which you could count on being there. And all of a sudden, she isn't. It's a bit like your mother dying, almost. She was the matriarch of the nation.
And you had somebody to rely on, to converse with, to confer with, and now that's gone. Okay, I go back to King Charles. Does he give that impression that he's going to have that sense of warmth in relationships? I know this is a little premature, but we've been watching him now for 30 years, 40 years as sort of king in waiting.
Well, this is his opportunity to rise to the occasion. A lot of people would say, no, he hasn't given that impression. I am a bit of a fan of Prince Charles. One of the reasons is he set up something called the Prince's Trust, which has done incredibly good work. And the Prince's Trust has helped more than 100,000 people, I think 300,000 people, basically help them set up their businesses.
Right.
It's a sort of semi-charity,
okay,
which invests in people setting up small businesses.
Wonderful.
And it's done wonderful work. It's created hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs in this country.
Well,
he doesn't get a great deal of credit, and I think he should.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. Tom, your expectations at this point, and of course you are, because of your, you've got cancer, you're being treated for that. Of course, you've got to be very careful. What will you be doing through this week and possibly during the funeral? Obviously, watching that, I assume, on TV. Will there be any gatherings that you'll know about or be participating?
No, I won't be. In fact, unfortunately, I booked some time in Iceland, which I really will be doing. So I'm going to miss the funeral. I have a very old friend in Iceland, and I've set up some lectures there as well, and I'll be meeting with the Icelandic Prime Minister.
Tom, we're coming to the end of our program. I appreciate your time today and look forward to further conversations, particularly in relationship to Iceland. But that's another topic for another time. Thank you for being with us, and our condolences to all of you in the United Kingdom, as this is a great loss, and it's a great loss, I would say, for the world. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lockwood.